everybody. Lord Tremendous here. Got another battle report here for you. Number 100. Can you believe it? Can you believe this is number 100? How insane is that? And it's a rivalry match against Death Holy Death, no less. 2,500 point battle. Lord Tremendous, that's me, of the Warriors of Chaos, versus Death Holy Death, my Dark Elf rival. Oh, what a perfect game to have for number 100, huh? Very, very cool. Should be a blast. The narrative part of the stories are very long. And I'm also doing something a little different. I'm starting to add sound effects now. Just trying it out. I don't know if I'll keep it or not. We'll see. And the narratives, I'm breaking them up a little bit so that I'm not just droning on. Not a ton. It's just going to be like a picture or two just to kind of add to the story. Because, everybody likes pictures in their books, right? Yeah, I mean, if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. Maybe I'll keep doing it. Maybe I won't. It really kind of depends on what I feel. But, I've been known to be swayed by logical reasoning before. But, yeah, let's get right to it, shall we? This is my side of the narrative. Lord Tremendous felt energized. Something about this day just seemed different. Everything felt bolder. He felt stronger. Everything appeared brighter and more defined to his demonic sight. The number 100 kept flashing in his mind as if Tzeentch was trying to tell him something of great significance. He sat in his fortress contemplating this new development. A pack of his favorite warhounds began to growl at something outside. Tremendous paid them no mind. So deep in his own thoughts, he couldn't be bothered by the mewling of his sacrificial pets. What did finally catch his attention was the single bolt that came crashing through his walls and pegged one of his hounds to the floor. Rising to his feet, Tremendous ripped the bolt from the ground and inspected the markings. The symbol of the bleak flowers was etched into the wooden shaft. Furious that the bleak flowers would dare to attack him in his stronghold, Tremendous crushed the shaft in his claw and raked open reality in order to see the forces arrayed against him. He saw then that Lydia had come with nothing more than a war party. This was no invasion. This was a raid! Using the power of his will, he changed the focus of his rip in reality to his own forces. He stepped through the rift and materialized in front of his captains, Catalyst, Berserk, and Saval. "We are under attack, mortals. Gather your forces and repel the invaders, or find yourself on the pyres come nightfall," Tremendous growled. The mortals saluted in respect and ran to obey him. Tremendous grinned. He had trained his captains well. Raking his claws across the air, he formed another rip in reality as his previous one sealed shut. He watched as Lydia bombarded his fortress with her hated bolt-thrower teams. Tremendous seethed at the sight of them. The 2 scars on his body began to itch as the memory of their deaths he suffered at their bolts climbed to the surface. Tremendous was now in a foul mood, and it didn't help that he still didn't understand why 100 kept flashing through his mind at a time like this. It didn't take long for his captains to gather his forces, and Tremendous looked them over. His warriors of Khorne were already cutting themselves in expectation of the coming fight. His new unit of Tzeentch warriors flickered in and out of reality as they checked their flaming weapons and inspected their crystal shields. His knights arranged themselves around Catalyst as haughty as ever. Tremendous only allowed this because of their prowess in battle. His hounds ran amongst his warriors, and his war shrine began sacrificing both victims and volunteers to the greatness that is Tzeentch. However, it wasn't until the beast made its way through the reality rift that Tremendous was truly pleased. 800 pounds of chaos-warped animal came trundling through the warp. Tremendous instantly felt a kinship with the beast, and with its arrival, he knew they were ready to repel the invaders. As Tremendous cut open the thin fabric of reality so that his army could fast travel, he had another strange feeling wash over him. It became much more intense as Catalyst, Berserk, and Saval passed through the rip. Tremendous found it strange that his emotions would be stirred by anything, let alone the whims of his imagination and the sight of his captains. He found the sensation distracting. As the last mortal hurried through the rip, Tremendous was pleased by what he saw. That emotion startled him as well. It was in that moment that the damned 100 started flickering through his mind again. As Tremendous walked through the terror to join his army, he was struck by a million images of the battles he fought and the victories he'd won. A Skaven general slain with searing doom, wood elf armies eradicated, high elves fleeing before him, the pitiful armies of the Empire and Bretonnia being crushed under his clawed feet, cast to the spoilers trolls, turning the tide of the battle and vanquishing him in a tide of vomit, and the memory of being removed from this reality by the kiss of a well-aimed bolt thrower. How he hated that. Then his mortal memories returned, stronger than ever. He remembered when Lucius Bleakflower invaded his lands over 3,000 years ago. He remembered he was barely a teenager when he slew the elf that had killed his friends. She was naked and beautiful, and had 2 curved daggers made of bone that were both the most cruel and elegant weapons he'd ever seen. Killing her had been instinct, and he remembered standing over her corpse when something slammed into his head and the world went dark. When Tremendous awoke, he was upside down, bound to a pole, being carried by survivors of his clan as they were marched into huge elven ships. Once on the ship, he was visited by a tiny dark elven girl. She looked to be 6 years old, but she was the most cruel and evil child he'd ever met. During the child's visits, she would cut him with her tiny knives and play in his blood, giggling the entire time. She would relieve herself in his meager food rations, and then watch in sick fascination as his hunger forced him to eat it. He had never known hate for anything like he learned to hate that little girl. It was that hate that had carried him through the next decade of slavery in the gladiator pits of the Bleakflower clan. It was this hate that had fueled his exhausted body as he made his escape from the elven slave holds and swam back to the north through frigid waters for over 2 weeks. It was his hate that caught the attention of the Dark Lord Khorne, who blessed him and ascended him into the Chaos Warrior as he lay on the shore of his homeland. It was that same hate that was with him for over 2,900 years that led him to earning enough victories that eventually led to his ascension to full demonhood. And it was his hatred, his deeply ingrained hatred, that led his actions now as he ordered his army, once again, to attack the invading Bleakflowers. Tremendous came out of his Terran reality and closed it behind him. He looked around at the Bleakflowers arranged against him on his own lands. Suddenly a certain serenity came over him. He knew what the 100 in his mind meant, and the knowledge made him feel good. This battle marked his 100th major battle against the Bleakflowers. This battle was his 100th major engagement against the race that had unwittingly put him on the path to greatness and eternal demonhood. It occurred to Tremendous that he should be grateful, or at least acknowledge the fact that the Bleakflowers were the reason he become what he is. Then he remembered the little girl, the evil, cruel little girl, and the things she had done to him all those thousands of years ago. He remembered her eyes, the insane, dangerous, and somehow intelligent eyes that haunted him for months on the slave ships. He had seen those eyes in Lydia, and he knew she was the little girl from his past. It was in that moment that any hope for the Bleakflowers died, and Tremendous roared his fury at the Bleakflower raiding party. He clung to his plan to continue attacking Lydia's forces until her reputation was so ruined that her own people ripped down her walls and staked her head to a post. He didn't care how many battles it took, how many lives were lost, or how many times he was forced back into the warp by Lydia's damn bolt throwers. With an enraged curse, Tremendous charged ahead of his army and brought a spell down upon Lydia's defenders, turning a score of them into golden statues. He cared little about the outcome of this battle. All that mattered was that he was killing elves and that he was destroying his nemesis's reputation, and that with each battle his plan was coming closer to fruition. Here's to another 100 battles. Well, alright then. Here's my list. I've got my Demon Prince still, Lord Tremendous. He's got the Mark of Tzeentch, he's level 3 Wizard, Chaos Armor, Charm Shield, Dragonbane Gem, other Trickster Shards, Soul Feeder, Scaled Skin, Flaming Breath, Poisonous Slime, and Allura Medal. My hero choices are my Exalted Hero, Catalyst, Keeper of the Colors. He's got the Mark of Tzeentch, he's my BSB, he's got a Halberd, Cast Deed, Helm of Many Eyes, and a Dawnstone. My other Exalted Hero, Berserk, has the Mark of Khorne, he's got an extra hand weapon, Hideous Visage, Dragon Helm, and the Crown of Command. And then I have my Chaos Sorcerer, Saval, the Mercenary Chaos. He's got the Mark of Tzeentch, he's level 2 Wizard, he's on a Demonic Mount, Pack Hog. He's got an Enchanted Shield, Skull of Catan, Talisman of Protection, and use the Lore of Tzeentch. My core choices are 5 Chaos Warhounds with Scaled Skin, 17 Chaos Warriors, Blood Tide, with a Mark of Khorne, Full Command Halberds, Banner of Fury, 18 Chaos Warriors, the Children of Tzeentch, with the Mark of Tzeentch, Full Command Hand Weapon Shield, and the Banner of Eternal Flame, And my special choices include 5 Chaos Knights, the Teeth of Tzeentch, with Mark Tzeentch and Sorcered Weapons, Band of Musician, and a Standard of Discipline. And my War Shrine, the Bringer of Change, with the Mark of Tzeentch. My rare choice is the one, the only, the Mutalith Vortex. Gotta love the beast. My opponent's list is as follows. He's got his Dreadlord, Lydia Bleakflower, Dread Lady of Harganeth. She's got heavy armor, Sea Dragon Cloak, Shield, Giant Blade, Dawnstone, and the other Trickster Shard. He's also got his Supreme Sorceress, Lily Bleakflower, Supreme Sorceress of the Harganeth. She's a level 4 wizard with a Book of Asher and Lure Life. His hero choices are his Death Hag, Julieta, Lady of Lacerations, on the Cauldron of Blood. He's got his Sorceress, Tessa, the Apprentice. She's a level 2 wizard with the Tome of Furion and the Lore of Dark Magic. And he's got his Master, Idyr, Housecarl of the Bleak Flowers. He's her BSB. He's got heavy armor, Sea Dragon Cloak, Sword of Might, Enchanted Shield, and the Iron Curse icon. And his core choices, which are 25 Witch Elves with full command and Razor Standard, 2 units of 5 Dark Riders with Musician and Shields, and 15 Bleak Swords. His special choices consist of 20 Executioners with full command and a Banner of Swiftness, 4 Bolt Throwers, and his rare choice are his 5 Doomfire Warlocks. These are my spells, 3 from Metal, 2 from Tzeentch, and 1 from the Beast. And these are his spells, 4 from Life, 2 from Darkness, the Lore of Darkness or whatever, and 2 for his Warlocks, and of course his Cauldron. And here's deployment. As you can see, I've got a few more models on the table. Really, my warriors were supposed to deal with the Witch Elves. I wanted to get the Khorne warriors and the Tzeentch warriors into the Witch Elves as soon as possible. My Demon Prince was going to go after the Bolt Throwers on the left flank. My Beast and Saval were going to go on the Bolt Throwers on the right flank. My Knights were going to go where needed. I didn't want them into the Executioners, but I placed them, and then he placed his Executioners. I kind of wish the Executioners and the Beast were swapped, but what can you do? Meanwhile, the War Shrine was just going to hang out in back and try to make my characters and unit champions as tough as humanly possible. I kind of had the idea that how cool would it be if I was able to raise the unit champions up to Demon Princes, and have 3 Demon Princes on the table just swarm in. That might be really cool. But other than that, yeah, you're looking at it. There's my opponent's left flank. There's his Warlocks, his Dark Riders, and behind his Dark Riders are 2 Bolt Throwers. Here's Death's Center. On the left there's the Executioners with Lydia and Idyr, his BSB and his General. There's this big old unit of Witch Elves, and as you can see, he's starting to paint the witches. They're not quite done yet, but he's coming along quite nicely, and it's looking really good. Behind them, of course, are the Bleak Swords with Lilith and Tessa, his casters. And we'll take a quick time out just to check out the paint job that he's doing on the witches. It's not completely done, as you can see, but he's coming along quite nicely with them, and I like the direction it's going. The blue hair on the witches really pops. I like that. And here's his left flank, which consists of his other unit of Dark Riders and his 2 Bolt Throwers on the hill. Here's my right flank, which consists of Saval and the Beast. And here's my center, which has my War Shrine, my Tzeentch warriors, my Khorne warriors with Berserk. In front of them are the dogs. And there's my Demon Prince, and you can kind of see my new BSB model on the left there. And my left flank, which consists of my Knights and my new BSB. And yes, I'm working on a new banner. Here's top of 1 after movement, and as you can see, I got to go first! Yay! And all I do really is charge forward. My Demon Prince and my Knights move forward because they're going to go after the Bolt Throwers ASAP, just as soon as humanly possible. I know he's going to shoot at my Demon Prince. I'm well aware of that. They're in the forest. He's at a -1 to hit him. All I can hope is that he's able to weather it long enough to get in there and take him out. Saval moves up as much as he can to try to give the other Bolt Throwers something to shoot at. The Beast does the same thing. My entire hope here is to try to stop his or to weather his Bolt Thrower attack so I can get into his Bolt Throwers and kill him. That's really it. Everything else just moves up as far as it can because I need to get into him because I know he's not coming at me. Other than that, that's all that happens during top of 1. My magic is easily stopped and I don't shoot. So we go to bottom of 1. And other than his fast cav, nothing moves. Is 1 unit of Dark Riders come over on my right flank to harass Saval. The Warlocks and the other Dark Riders run over to harass my Demon Prince and my Knights. During his magic phase, he's able to push through Soul Blight. I try to stop it, and I fail miserably. And right here, as you can see, he gets doom bolted yet again. And he's rolling so high. It's insane. But what can you do? He doom bolts me. I'm rolling kind of poorly. He blows up my charm shield and gets 2 wounds through. And then, of course, no problem. He bolt throwers my Demon Prince. It only takes 2 shots, and the Demon Prince is dead. And that sucks! Yeah, it's a gamble. I'm not playing poorly here. I'm not like my last battle report against Death. This one, I'm not playing poorly. I gambled here, and the gamble didn't pay off. Sometimes it does. Unfortunately, he's rolling well, and it didn't work out. So yeah, that's why the Demon Prince died. So what can you do? The dogs passed their panic check, so that's something. And so did Knights. Over here with the bolt throwers he's got left over, he's like, hey, why not? And he shoots Saval and puts 2 wounds through on him. So it's like, awesome! Things are going good. I like it. So we go to top of 2 after movement, and as you can see, I tried. The Muleth just kind of goes after the Witch Elves. Saval charges into the bolt thrower and makes it. My Knights charge into his fast cav because I fully expected him to flee, and then I was going to go after his bolt throwers. He didn't flee. So oops. Yeah, so I slam into his fast cav, and yeah, I kind of wish I hadn't done that. I should have went after the bolt throwers, but hindsight's 2020. I figured he was going to flee. I didn't realize it wasn't a bluff. Meanwhile, the warriors and the dogs move up a little bit, and I'm kind of hesitant with the dogs simply because I want the witch elves to come after me again, to come after the dogs, but I know if they move up too far, the executioners are just going to do it. I should have probably moved them up. It would have been smarter, but I didn't because I'm dumb. There's a better picture of Saval slamming into the bolt thrower. And a better picture of my knights and my BSB slamming into the fast cav. During my magic phase, I get Tzeentch's Firestorm off on the witches, and it direct hits over them, and that's pretty cool because right there, 5 of the ladies die. It's not very good. It's only strength 3, so I need 4s. I end up hitting like 13 of them, and he makes a bunch of his ward saves. But I'll still take 5 out of the 25 or so that he's got. You know, it's a nice little chunk out of him. Then we go into combat, and Saval does not do very well. I flub pretty spectacularly. I kill 1 guy. I win this combat, but he makes his break check no problem. So not exactly part of the plan. And then over here in combat, yeah, it's not a problem at all for my knights to just murder, death, kill the the fast cav. I turn to face the bolt throwers because I'm like, yeah, it's time to kill them off. I know they're going to get to shoot at me, but I'm not too concerned, you know. So we go to bottom of 2 after movement, and that's where I realize where I make my first mistake, and this is a mistake. My knights get charged by his executioners. He could see them by a huge margin. It wasn't even close. How I missed that is beyond me, but you know what? I'm still having fun. I really enjoy playing against him, and even when I make mistakes like this, it's like, shit happens. What can you do? Yeah, so he gets my knights with his executioners. Every single one of you that are watching this, even if it's the first battle report you've ever watched and you've never played Warhammer in your life, you can look at that charge and go, yep, we know what's going to happen. Meanwhile, his witches just kind of hang tight, and his Dark Riders pretty much stay still because they're just, well, his Dark Riders and Warlocks pretty much just kind of hang out where they are because why move? They've got great shots at everything. Yeah, there's a better picture of his executioners with his BSB and his Lord charging into my knights, and what can you do? During his magic phase, he's able to get Soul Blight off on the knights, and I don't know what to do. And he gets Flesh of Stone off on his executioners, and there's nothing I can do about it. Really, I'm burning all my dice trying to stop Throne of Vines so that if he misfire or if he miscasts, he has to pay for it. But the problem is he's rolling 3 dice to do it, and he's rolling a 5, a 6, and a 5. It's like, oh man, could you just get it off by like 2 or something? He's rolling incredibly high. But you know what? He's beaten me, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. So he gets that off. And then we go over here during the shooting phase, and the bolt throwers that are laughing all the way home kill the beast, and that sucks. I hate it when the beast dies. I hate it. You know, again, it was that gamble thing just didn't work out. Saval was supposed to have blown through that bolt thrower and gotten a hold of the other one. Tremendous was hopefully not going to die and weather it, and it just didn't work out. Death took me up on my gamble, and it worked out for him, and now the beast is dead. Ugh! So we go into combat, and Saval is able to kill off the other crew member, and yay, the bolt thrower on the other side of the hill makes his panic check no problem, but it doesn't matter, Saval's going to charge him next turn anyway. And as you can see, his executioners are able to kill off all of my knights. It's not even a contest for him. I challenge, and Lydia accepts. I don't hurt her. She doesn't hurt. Well, I think she did 1 wound to my BSB, but we didn't, the combat wasn't resolved. But all the knights die. I lose combat by 172. My BSB breaks and dies instantly, and the executioners just turn to face. They make their check. I think I kill like 1 executioner, maybe 2. It's not impressive at all. But yeah, that sucks. So we go to top of 3 after movement, and as you can see, Saval charges the bolt thrower, and my War Shrine, who was literally needed a 12 to hit the Dark Riders, or the Warlocks on my left there. I roll boxcars. I took a picture of it. Give me a second, I'll get to it. But yeah, he actually makes it into the Warlocks. I was thrilled. It was funny as hell. I'm really liking having a War Shrine back in the list. I know a Chariot would have done the same thing or whatever, but a Chariot doesn't get a 3-up ward save. A Chariot doesn't give your characters rolls on the Eye of the God charts, and a Chariot doesn't look quite as cool as the War Shrine. I really like the model too, and I know mine's painted Nurgle. If I'm really positive that the War Shrine's going to stay in the list for a while, I'm going to buy another one and eventually have my wife paint it, and I'll have a Tzeentch one as well. So there's that. Meanwhile, the dogs run up to just kind of poke around at the witches, and then the warriors move up because I need to get a hold of them ASAP. There's a better picture of my War Shrine making the insane, needing boxcars to make it roll into the Warlocks, and there's the dice I rolled, so nobody can say I'm a liar. Besides, Death wouldn't let me cheat. And there's a better picture of Saval making it into the bolt thrower. He should have been in a turn ago. During the magic phase, I kind of stupidly, well, not stupidly, I threw 4 dice at Tzeentch's Firestorm, the big one, at the Bleak Swords, because it was in range, it was a good shot, and if I could get them to panic off the table, the dogs were the closest thing to them. Well, 25% casualty that ran from Saval. It doesn't matter, it's a good chance I could flee him off the table, right? Because the BSB's gone. I was hoping. So it goes off and say, Irresistible Force. Not my plan, but not exactly the worst thing that could have possibly happened. It hits all of them. As you can see, I roll a direct hit, so that's great. Problem is, and let me show you, boom. It's strength 1, and I don't roll any 6s. There's the dice I rolled. I hit every single one of them, and I don't hurt anybody. Tessa actually failed her Look Out Sir roll, and I rolled a 1 to wound her, so yep, a lot of strength 1. Tzeentch's Firestorm turned into Tzeentch's Butterfly Kisses and didn't do anything to the Dark Elves. However, the resulting miscast 6 on Saval kills him. He does not make his 5-up ward, and he dies. The one saving grace is that the miscast does end up touching, hitting, and wounding or it does end up touching the bolt thrower, and I roll a 1 to wound it. It's, I guess I deserve this? I don't know. I don't know. During combat, though, over here, the War Shrine takes a wound for his trouble. I'm not able to get past his ward save, but charge to a wound, we're stalemated because Warlocks can't take musicians. So we stand there. And then we go to bottom of 3 after movement. And there's been a little bit, for the most part, you're looking at it. The executioners come a little bit closer, and that's it. During his magic phase, he gets Flesh of Stone off on the Witch Elves for whatever reason. And his shooting is concentrated on the dogs and murders them all, no problem. He actually panics them a little bit. They start to flee, and then he shoots them down with the other bolt thrower. It sucks. Over here, the War Shrine continues beating the crap out of the Warlocks. I take 3 of them out. I win this combat, but they stick it out. But still very cool. Very cool. I mean, the Dreadlord's right there. He was within 12, so he needed a 10 to stay, and he made it no problem. But my War Shrine's kicking ass and taking names, and that's awesome. So we go to top of 4 after movement, and as you can see, my warriors get charged by the executioners. Or no, I'm sorry, my warriors charge the executioners, because why not? And my warriors, my Tzeentch warriors also charge the witches, but they don't make their charge. So, oh well. Something tells me the witches are going to get their turn, so it was worth a shot. There's a better picture of the Corn warriors slamming into the executioners. And there's a better picture of the Tzeentch warriors going, oh damn, we should have put some effort forward. During combat, another stalemate occurs. My magic phase is destroyed, so there's no point really trying. Yeah, I do try to get the War Shrine spell off, and needless to say, it doesn't go off. Meanwhile, in combat right here, nothing happens. We just kind of bounce off each other's ward saves and argue about it. In combat over here, it's bloody, it's rough, my unit champion gets eviscerated pretty good. However, I kill more of him than he kills of me. He is stubborn, or steadfast, because he has a rank and I don't, but still, all in all, we did pretty friggin' well. I have no complaints with how this one worked out. I win this combat, he's steadfast, and makes it no problem. Yep, there is a little bit of hope here. That's what the combat looks like after all the bodies are cleaned up. But I'm starting to hope that if he can just flub one more round, I might be able to break him. So, Razor's Edge hope. So, we go to bottom of 4 because I just can't wait. And the warriors get charged by the witches, and I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I fled with the warriors, with the damn dark elves, or the dark riders right behind them. And in my head, it was, okay, I flee, I bounce through the house, and I get away. But the house was like 10 inches away. I don't know what I was thinking. It was really stupid. I end up fleeing right in front of the Dark Riders, and then, of course, his Dark Riders charge the fleeing warriors, who continue to flee. Now, to the warriors' credit, they did flee 11 inches from the Dark Riders. But the Dark Riders rolled average and were able to run down my warriors without a fight. That was stupid. That is the second huge mistake I made in this game. Really stupid thing to do there. I got nothing. The Tzeentch Warriors didn't get their chance to shine, and that's completely and totally my fault. However, it makes the game go quicker, I guess. I don't have any silver lining in that one whatsoever. There's a better picture right there. The Tzeentch Warriors getting run down because I'm an idiot. I got nothing. During his magic phase, I don't remember what Tessa miscasts, but she put a wound on herself from Power of Darkness, and then the next spell she cast, I don't remember what it was, but she miscasts, or she irresistible forces it, miscasts 5, puts a wound on herself, so she's dead, as well as 6 other Bleak Swords. They all die, and they make their break check, but Tessa kills herself, which is not only fitting, but hilarious. And then I get -1 strength, -1 toughness. I get all the negatives. I think it was Word of Pain. I think it was the big Word of Pain she got off of my warriors. And then, of course, Lilith was able to get +2 toughness onto the executioners. So, awesome! And before I can do anything, his executioners and everything. Well, I mean, I guess I get to strike back, but I don't do very well. And all my warriors and Berserk die a horrible death. And that figures, you know. However, over here, the War Shrine does me proud and kills the last 2 Warlocks, which is just glorious. So, we go to top of 5 after movement, and I just don't care. I've got my War Shrine left. I'm not going to win with the War Shrine, so we go for a Glory Charge, and the War Shrine slams into the Executioners and makes his charge. There's a better picture of the War Shrine slamming into the Executioners, which is, hey, that's kind of cool. And then it gets killed. It just, kaboom! Just die a horrible death. Nothing you could do. It was just terrible playing by my part. I made 2 critically bad decisions and lost 2 critical units. I gambled with the Demon Prince and it didn't pay off. The Beast got shot down. Just everything that could have gone wrong did. And we go to the end of the game. And I would love to say it was my bad luck or my opponent's good luck or anything like that, but no. I played like an idiot a couple of times and my opponent capitalized that as a good opponent should. So there's what the game looks like at the end, and my feelings are hurt. But we'll get to my feelings in a second, because right now it's time for a quick timeout. token time, everybody. Tokens. Check them out. All the tokens you could need for anything that you could possibly play. Warhammer 40k, Infinity, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Infinity, Malifaux, whatever you need tokens for, Token Gal can make the tokens. They're dirt cheap, guys. No more than $8 for a set, but they're solid gold quality. I mean, these are glass beads. They magnify the picture and the words. You've got wound counters. You got status effects. You got spell effects. +1 toughness, -1 strength. You know, whatever you need. She's got all the magic lores. She's got everything you need for any system that you play. She's got a email address you can send and be like, hey, I'm looking for this. And now she has a website. It's there at the bottom. I'm not going to bother reading it off because if you can't read, what the hell are you doing on the internet? Just seriously, though, check her out. Check out her website. Order yourself some tokens. It's totally worth it. You won't regret it. The Northern Wastes. Catalyst opened his eyes blearily. His arms felt leaden. He was trapped beneath the corpse of his horse. Hovering just in front of his visor was a pair of bright violet eyes, set in a pale, slender face. This face was streaked with gore and framed by a tangle of blood-stained white hair. It spoke to him. Hiya! Something struck his helmet with incredible force, and the darkness rushed in again. Catalyst gripped the bars of his steel cage and growled at the rolling landscape outside. He had been chained here for weeks, trapped like a rat. The cage was crammed full of Norska villagers, many of whom were sick or dying from illness and starvation. The Druchii fed them once per day with a mixture of dirty water and shreds of barely cooked meat. He suspected the meat came from the corpses of the dead. Waste not, want not. It mattered little to him, however. He had transcended the need for petty mortal concerns long ago. He was a true warrior of chaos, devoted to the architect of fate. He no longer required food, drink, or rest. He lived only to slay in the name of his god. Glory and power for Tzeentch! The landscape had begun to shift about a week and a half ago, and they had slowly traveled back from the Chaos Waste to the bleak land of Nagaroth. Ahead, he could see the towering spires of Harganeth, home of the hated Bleak Flower clan. He silently cursed the day he had sworn himself to Tremendous' service. It had seemed like a good idea at the time. Tremendous was a demon of great power, and Catalyst had thought he might learn the secrets of demonhood from serving him. But the creature was insane, obsessed with his futile fight and the Bleak Flower woman. And the crazy witch didn't even know his name. How could he be sold as a slave? The very idea put a bitter taste in his mouth, but he knew it was simply another challenge for him to overcome. He was a warrior of Tzeentch, and sooner or later he would escape. Fate would provide a way. When he escaped, he would make his way back to the north and raise his own warband. Forget Tremendous and his pointless quarrel. There was greater glory to be had. He watched as they approached the impossibly high walls of the city. The gate before them was emblazoned with the crest of the bleak flowers, a pale white rose, each petal of which was inscribed with the rune of Cain. A train of cages came to a stop as they approached the gate. The passengers were forced off and chained together in links. Catalyst watched with interest as a lithe witch elf flitted amongst the prisoners, marking every 10th slave with a brand. She danced to a stop in front of him, slammed the brand into his armor, scorching a pattern into the metal. She danced away. He looked down at the mark and felt a sense of foreboding. It was the rune of their god, Cain. One week later, the drill court of the Bleakflower Citadel. Lydia stared down at the gathered tribesmen. The drill yard was surrounded on all sides by the impossibly high walls of the citadel. To the north one could hear the clang and hiss of the forge, the smiths busily at work. On the ramparts, crossbowmen and bolt throwers lined the walls, aimed down at the prisoners. Executioners hemmed them in on all sides. The cobbled stones of the ground were stained a deep rust brown. The Norsica looked fearful, well, all except a huge brute clad in sapphire blue armor. She shrugged to herself. Can't win 'em all. It was her custom to sacrifice 10% of all the captured slaves and soldiers to Cain. There were no real rules about how much one should sacrifice, but she felt 10% was a good number. They had captured about 2,000 Norsemen in their last raid, and Lord Thistlewhistle's lands. According to the record, there were 201 people down in that yard. 201, Lydia muttered to herself. The witch miscounted. Damn it! I don't like incompetence. She was most likely off kilter because you made them stand and watch the entirety of the last engagement from the sidelines. Besides, I'm sure Kane won't mind one more sacrifice. Lydia's twin sister, Lily, opened as she lounged on a sofa set on the terrace above the drill yard. Tessa stood nervously behind and to the left. Her floating red hair waved lazily in the wind. It's the principle. I like my offerings to our master to be correct, not one more or less, precise, like a fine killing blow. The symbology of a thing is important, but Lydia stopped mid-sentence and suddenly shuddered from head to foot, arms stretched out at her sides, shivering in ecstasy. Lily narrowed her eyes. What now? Lydia whirled around and smiled crazily at her sister. Tessa took an involuntary step backward. Lydia's violet eyes were dilated and glowed faintly in a Nagarothi gloom. She cocked her head to one side as she spoke. I have an idea. Catalyst narrowed his eyes as the bleak flower woman walked out onto the drill field, flanked by a dozen of her personal guard. She was dressed in full battle armor. Her guards flanked her, silently unreadable in their skull masks. A stooped old Norska accompanied them, his long white beard almost to his knees. He leaned heavily on a wooden staff. The woman waved cheerfully at the gathered slaves and began to speak. The old man translated into Norska, though Catalyst was fluent in Druchi himself. Hey everyone, welcome to Harganeth. I hope you've all had an awesome stay. Now I'm sure everyone's wondering what that symbol we burned into you means. Well, let me explain. It's the rune of Cain, and ordinarily it means you've been marked as a sacrifice to him. Normally we'd line you up and behead you to spill your blood on this floor as an offering to Cain, and a blessing to our warriors. But I've got a thing for numbers, and my emissary kind of screwed the pooch on this one. There were only supposed to be 200 of you, but as you can see, there are 201. One of you doesn't belong. Lydia smiled broadly. So we're going to play a game. And the winner gets... She paused for effect. The winner gets a reward. Specifically, he gets a pot of gold and his freedom! This game is a bit of a contest, so only the most intelligent, brightest, strongest, and quickest among you will survive. Catalyst smiled to himself. Tzeentch be praised. A quirk of fate was going to set him free. He could easily best any of these whelps in any kind of contest, regardless of his nature. He was a superior being, blessed by fate. The bleak flower woman continued on, a crooked grin on her face. Today's game is something I played in a dream once. It's called Simon Says. Although in this case, I guess it's Simone Says. She cackled a bit to herself. The rules are simple. One person is Simone, that's me. Anytime a person gives an order that begins with Simone Says, you must obey immediately. Anyone who doesn't obey Simone's instructions, or who obeys instructions from anyone other than Simone, or who obeys instructions from Simone that aren't prefaced with Simone Says, dies. She giggled, a bit to herself as the old man finished translating. Catalyst was beginning to feel confident. He was superior. His victory was an inevitability. All right, everyone ready? Okay. Simone Says stand on your right foot and put your left hand on top of your head. Everyone immediately did so, with the exception of a few unfortunate tribesmen who stood on their left foot, putting their right hands on their heads. Catalyst grinned as a twang of crossbows took the men off their feet. Okay, Simone Says, rub your belly with your right hand. A few tribesmen fell back as they lost their balance. More black-fletched bolts fell home. Okay, put your hands down. Catalyst remained as he was. Twang, twang, twang! Thud, thud, thud. Lydia had doubled over. She was holding her stomach with both hands. Her face had turned a bright pink. Simone Says, as you were. Now, Simone Says, punch the person to your left in the groin. Hee hee hee! Oh, my abs! Ha 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 ha! 3 hours later. Only 6 remained of the initial 201. Drying blood congealed itself on the cold tiles. Corpses littered the field. The stench of death was beginning to clog the air. Flies had begun to feast on the cold flesh. Hungry crows lined the high parapets of the citadel and gazed hungrily down on the spectacle below. Catalyst felt empowered. Some of the challenges had been difficult, but most were simply bizarre. The bleak flower general had taken a break to quaff down some spiced wine and water. She walked back to the stand in front of the slaves, a piece of bread hanging out of her mouth. She chewed absently. She seemed to be waiting for something. A noise caught a Catalyst's attention. Just on the other side of the giant iron gates that separated the drill field from the citadel proper, he could hear what suddenly sounded like drooling. He suddenly felt apprehensive. Lydia swallowed a hunk of bread. The slave stared hungrily at the crumbs that fell to the ground. The Dread Lady cleared her throat. Ah, okay. Welcome back. So, Simone says, she gestured with one slender arm to the gate. Pet Kim! The gate slid silently open, and a gigantic scaled beast bounded into the courtyard. It had 5 heads emerging from its monstrous torso and stood at least 9 meters tall. Each head was an eyeless mass of teeth, tongues, and dripping poisonous saliva. Its scales gleamed a lustrous jade as it trumpeted exuberantly and bounded towards the terrified tribesmen, 2 massive clawed legs reaching towards them. A moment of pure terror filled Catalyst, but he banished it to the back of his mind and dodged aside as the beast tore into the screaming tribesmen. He noticed detachedly that around the creature's central neck a banner had been tied like a cloak. It looked incredibly familiar, but he had no time to study it. He quickly dashed in towards the monster and reached out one hand, lightly stroking the scales of its midsection before skipping backwards. Scarcely a minute passed before Lydia yelled out, "Kim, heal!" The beast skidded to a stop. It had pulverized all but 5 of the tribesmen who had been brave enough to lay a hand on it. Its heads nudged the corpses mournfully. Its new friends weren't playing anymore. "Come here, girl." The Charybdis obediently trundled over to Lydia, who stroked its scales. It crooned. "Okay, go on." The creature wandered back through the gates. They slid shut again. Lydia yawned. "Okay, Simone's getting bored, so Simone says, you 6 fight to the death." She gestured at the remaining survivors. The tribesmen barely had time to turn before Catalyst was on them. His fists shattered bone, tore flesh, and reduced them to crushed meat in seconds. Lydia smiled and brushed a lock of snow of white hair back from her face, tucking it behind her ear. "All right, guy, one last command and then you win. Simone says take off that helmet." Catalyst grimaced. Chaos armor was bonded to the flesh of its wearer. Removing his helm would mean removing the skin off his face. He grit his teeth and took the edges of his helmet in both hands, pulling with all of his might. Searing agony washed over him as his skin stretched, then ripped. He tore the helmet free. He stood there triumphantly. His skin was already reknitting itself, black blood clotting and smoothing into new flesh. He had won. All the tribesmen lay dead around him. The Weaver of Fates had delivered him to freedom. He was marked for greatness. He looked up at the sky. Dark clouds whirled around the peaks of the citadel. Even the elements recognized his greatness. The elf woman smiled. "Okay, you win. Congrats. Now come stand before us and kneel. You will receive our blessing and your rewards." It irked Catalyst to kneel before the woman, but he did as he was bade. The champion strode over, enjoying the sensation of the cool air against his exposed flesh. He sank down on both knees before the Druchi general. Her guards silently moved around him, ringing him in. He smirked at her and spoke for the first time. "I know you were bound by your words to deliver my freedom and the gold. We know much about you and your city and your ways. Of all the places in your homeland, this city alone possesses laws, and you are obliged to fulfill your word. Know this, O Dread Lady, I shall return to wreak great and glorious ruin upon your people." Lydia stared down at him. "I am an elf of my word," she nodded almost imperceptibly. Wrenching agony tore through Catalyst as the executioners plumbed their drakes through his legs and cobblestones, pinning him to the floor. Simultaneously, 2 other guards slashed across his biceps, easily cutting through his armor and muscle. He felt his arms go limp as pain flooded through him. His eyes widened and he gasped, mouth open. He looked at the bleak flower woman. She was silhouetted in darkness, her face covered in shadow. Her eyes glowed a vibrant purple with a faint red aura, and a terrifying crooked grin slowly unzipped across her face. He felt an involuntary shudder rack his body. Above her he could see the sky. It glowed a ruddy red, and black clouds swirled above them. Purple lightning flashed, serrating the sky. Clouds of black carrion birds filled the air, crying out to the dead below them. He understood now, too late. The elements rejoiced, but not for him, but for her. Her voice assumed a commanding, unearthly tone. She gestured toward the doors of the forge. "First, your pot of gold!" The doors burst open, and a huge elf, covered in corded muscle and soot, strode out, carrying a glowing red pot in covered hands. Catalyst stared in horror, and then felt hands grip his face, wrenching his mouth open. breaking his jaw. A funnel was forced down his throat. Vice-like hands gripped his head and shoulders, immobilizing him. His eyes went wide as Lydia covered her hands in thick gloves and took the glowing pot in her hands. "Enjoy your riches!" She poured the molten gold down the funnel and into his throat. Catalyst spasmed in agony as the burning metal tore through his esophagus and spread through the organs of his chest. An ordinary mortal would have died immediately, but he was beyond ordinary, a true superhuman, and his unnatural resilience fought back against the searing substance, even as it ripped him apart from the inside. Lydia grinned. "And now for your freedom!" The executioner guards quickly stepped back as she raised the pot and brought it crashing down on his skull. The impact dented the hard metal and tore his head open, revealing throbbing gray matter and shattered white bone beneath. Lydia screamed at the top of her lungs, "Blood and souls!" Through the searing pain, Catalyst felt something wet on his skin. Something was falling from the sky. Red obscured his vision. He smelled the tang of iron. It was raining blood. The Druchi all around them raised their weapons to the air and echoed the Dread Lady's cry. "Blood and souls!" The pot crashed down again. "Blood and souls for Cain!" Catalyst slumped over into the rising tide of blood. He couldn't feel anymore, and his vision had fled. Another dull thud impacted him, then another, and another, each one punctuated with a wild call of "Cain!" As his soul slipped loose to the howling darkness, the last thing he heard was, "Cain! Cain! Cain!" Lydia slammed the ruined, twisted piece of metal into the pulverized corpse one more time. In her god trance, she had reduced the proud champion into a formless pile of shattered metal and oozing gore. Her voice was hoarse as she cried out to Cain one last time and slammed the metal into the seeping mass. The rain slowed down into a drizzle as she slowly pulled herself erect and arched her back, shoulders thrown back, arms at her side, face to the sky, eyes closed in ecstasy. Everyone in the courtyard, and indeed the entire citadel itself, were covered from head to foot in slick red blood. Lydia let the remains of the pot slip from her fingers as she purred in satisfaction. The blood was evaporating into a red steam from her skin and armor, and she glowed an ember red. Lily picked her way through the courtyard to her sister. The sorceress was entirely clean, having watched the events from beneath a parasol. Tessa trailed along behind her, eyes wide at the side in front of her. "So it ended up being 201 after all," Lily tutted at her gore-drenched sister. Lydia moaned in orgasmic bliss. "Yeah, I decided it doesn't hurt to tip extra." She slowly lowered her head down and shook her limbs loose, then stretched slowly. She opened her eyes and scanned the scene around her. Her gaze fell across Tessa. "So!" A crooked grin broke out across her face, and her eyes glowed with a sudden mischief. "Who's up for a bubble bath?" Tessa blanched and went pale. Lily sighed. The crows cackled in appreciation as they swooped down into the massacre and began to feast. Well, that's going to do it for the narration of Battle Report 100. So how do you feel, huh? Catalyst, killed by Lydia. About as horrible of a death as you could possibly give to a hero of a chaos, huh? Tzeentch champ, exalted hero. Golden insides, and then friggin' bashed to pieces by an iron kettle. Yeah, that's pretty friggin' brutal. Lydia's a sick, twisted elf. And you guys wonder why I'm so racist. Anyway, as you probably already know, here's our rivalry score. Lord Tremendous versus Death Holy Death, and I've won 5, we've drawn 0, and I've lost 10. I'm not playing very well against him for the past 5 or so games, huh? But it is what it is, I'm not complaining. It's a ton of fun, and I'm really enjoying this. But, as you expected, it was an epic loss for Lord Tremendous. I got tabled! I ended up losing everything. That's what it means when you get tabled. And I lost Catalyst forever. And by Catalyst forever, I mean the character that is my BSB will now be different. And might be a surprise to some who I choose to replace him with, and to others, I think it might be expected. Death knows who it is, and he loves the idea. The Dark Elves ended up losing a unit of Warlocks, a Bolt Thrower, 1 unit of Dark Riders, and Tessa. But, of course, as you can see from the thing, she got better. I've never seen Death roll as well as he was rolling this game. It was both an honor to watch and a curse to be a part of. I mean, 5s and 6s were the name of the game for him, and he capitalize on some serious mistakes that I made. So he is a superior player, and I chose well for my rival. Those damn bolt throwers had my number from turn one. Nothing I could do. Sometimes you just got to catch that hard L, you know? Really stupid mistake fleeing with my Tzeentch Warriors. I wish I stopped making these stupid rookie mistakes, but I'm going to keep making them, and I'm going to keep recording them, and I'm going to keep reporting them because it's kind of my thing. Yeah, sorry, I got nothing. Corn Warriors did great. They died, but it took a lot of executioners with them, and I was proud of them. I like my Warriors. They're a lot of fun. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed Battle Report number 100. I'm still kind of stunned that I've done 100 of these already. It doesn't feel like that many. It feels like I just started doing them every time I start doing another one. I've only been doing this since August of 2013. I think August 15th or so. So it's barely been 6 weeks or 6 months. But what do you think of the storyline narration? The improvements? Do you like what I'm doing with the little pictures in between? Do you like the breakups? Do you like the little sound effects? I know they're cheesy, but that's kind of my thing. So, you know, let me know what you think. If you like it, cool. If you don't, cool. Let me know. I might stop doing it. I might continue to do it. Well, the narration's going to stay. But would you prefer it all in one big, long-winded thing? Or do you like the little breakups? Do you like being able to skip it? Talk to me. I need feedback. Expect this rivalry to go on for some time. We thought about at one point when it first started, you know, going to a dozen wins and whoever won, and then we'd start it back over. But damn that. We're going to keep this story going. It's going to become like this epic saga. But yeah, we won't be ending it anytime soon. It's going to go on for a long time. Or we're going to finish it next game. It really depends on what we feel like doing. But I hope you guys are enjoying it because we're having a ton of fun with it. I'm actually really looking forward to fighting against them again so we can further the story. But seriously, though, guys, thank you very much for subscribing and continuing to watch my channel. It really helps. It's nice that I stand out. I'm no Sustainable Center or Mr. Malorian or Luke Davis or Once Bitten, but not everybody can be a legend. You know, I'm perfectly fine with having a moderate amount of success with my channel. But seriously, though, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate everybody who watches. And hopefully, as time goes by and I go to GTs and travel and stuff like that, I'll be able to run into people and play games against them and stuff. Should be a lot of fun. But as always, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. But seriously, everybody, thanks.